While much closer to realisation, savings of hundreds of millions of dollars. But critics still claim Melbourne is defying an international trend to move more people out of cars and into public transport.
Public transport worker John Tanevsky has a pretty simple job description.
I start to open the gates for the train. When I pass the train, I start to open the gates for the traffic.
Here on the Upfield line, close to the heart of Melbourne, a quaint reminder of how transport technology has changed. These manually operated gates should have been phased out years ago, but they weren't, due to vacillation by previous governments over the line's future. Jeff Kennett's Liberals have promised to upgrade it.
Former Labor government did everything they could, and in fact, former Minister moved to close it. We've not only now retaining it, we're spending $25 million starting right now, and that will bring it up to a world-class standard.
The Upfield upgrade is part of the Victorian government's brand new plan to integrate Melbourne's transport system. Called Transporting Melbourne, the document nominates 7 urban corridors for integrated development over the next 15 years. One of its main authors is engineering professor Ken Ogden.
It's a whole package of land use, of public transport, of road-based transport, passenger movement, brought together in a way that involves the Commonwealth, involves the state, and involves local government, in a way that the total outcome will be very much greater than the sum of its individual parts.
The central plank of the report is the so-called Metropolitan Orbital Transport Corridor, which will link a number of Melbourne's roads and freeways, as well as public transport routes.
It integrates the urban area. It provides a logical destination for all of the radial transport routes coming in from regional Victoria and from interstate. It links most of the industrial areas in Melbourne. Most of them are very close to the orbital corridor, so it links them to each other, links them to the port and the airport, and also obviates pressures, and certainly there are pressures, were pressures within the development of Transporting Melbourne for more freeway development in inner suburbs, which I think would be a mistake.
But critics of the concept claim it will become nothing more than a ring freeway. Public transport lobbyist and planning lecturer Paul Mees says the government's blueprint is too focused on the road network.
Purports to be an integrated document, so you have to assess it as a whole. And all those goodies for public transport are massively outweighed by the vast program of freeway construction. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar program of freeway construction that's proposed in this document, and that unfortunately will nullify anything good that's done in the public transport field.
Certainly Melbourne has a huge road project underway, and it's called City Link, costing $1.6 billion, funded mainly by the private sector. Connecting 3 of Melbourne's major freeways, CityLink is one of the biggest road projects ever attempted in Australia.
A revitalised and freer-flowing city centre.
For anti-freeway campaigners, the new road projects have been controversial because they've attracted generous tax concessions, which the public ends up paying for. Due to be finished by the year 2000, CityLink will feature tollways and the building of a tunnel under the Yarra River.
Based on what it says in the prospectus, CityLink is about taking traffic off public transport, is about catering for traffic to the centre of town. That's precisely the sort of travel that we ought to be trying to get on public transport. If it was genuinely about bypassing the central city, there'd probably be an argument in favour of it, but it doesn't appear to be. It really appears to be a vast series of off-ramps to pump cars into the central business district in the areas just around it, like South Bank.
What about this is in that there's too much emphasis on roads and not enough on public transport?
Transporting Melbourne is a very mature document that's been produced by very competent people over a long period of time. And it does look at what you would call almost the competing interests of road and public transport, and it accommodates both in a very proper way. It's a blueprint to expand both in the future. And for anybody to suggest that we shouldn't look at the funding of road infrastructure is just not in the real world. You need to look at both, and we'll be investing thousands of millions of dollars through the life of this document in both road-based programs and in rail-based and public transport-based programs as well.
University student Carl Safstrom would like some of that money used to improve coordination between different modes of public transport. He lives in an outer suburb, and catching a bus to the train station isn't always a good option.
On average, I'd normally walk because it means I don't have to wait for a bus, and then it takes time for the bus to get here, and it's probably quicker for me to walk, even though it is a fair distance to walk.
I am the passenger, and I ride.
For my personal sort of travelling, it would be a lot better if buses ran more regularly so that they connected to different services and made it more viable for people to use the public transport.
It looks so good tonight.
Hi, can I have a session to the city, please?
Once he's on the train, Carl has a good connection to the tram network in the city. But Camden agrees that bus services need improvement.
There's tremendous scope for doing a lot more with buses in Melbourne. Buses have really been the Cinderella mode for a long time, and different ways of thinking about the way we operate bus services, upgraded interchanges such as this one, integrated with land use as suburban campuses, a whole range of prospects of that nature. And the important thing is that they're achievable. This is the vision. It's a way of thinking, but it's one that can be introduced and fostered by the different change in the institutional structure, which gives operators of public transport a real incentive to get out there and grow their markets, and there's tremendous market potential there.
Well, what do you think of the system at the moment?
Well, it's terrible. This is not
Okay.
No, I think it's terrible.
I'm quite impressed with it. It's quite good. I do like the improvement on the stations and the lack of graffiti and so forth.
And everything looks good tonight.
It's too bloody expensive.
Is it?
Yeah.
How good the public transport system is depends on who you talk to. But Melbourne is generally recognised as having a world-class train system, and its tram network is one of the biggest in the world. Perhaps the most amazing development in recent years have been the reforms by the Kennett government. Since 1992, the number of public transport corporation staff has been halved to 9,000, with the government claiming savings of $250 million a year.
For those that are in the system now, you know, these employees are very happy. They were really belted from pillar to post in years by. They were seen as, you know, the laughing stock in some ways. Now they're very proud of the service they give. We have award-winning services now, and our services, not just in passengers but in freight, are acknowledged as the most improved rail in the world, and that's feline freight. We're moving more tonnage now than 4 years ago, with less than half the staff that were there at that time. Now, these are amazing reforms.
Catch a tram down Skilda Road and it'll get you to the Botanical Gardens. Thank you. Okay.
The government's also won praise with the introduction of initiatives like the City Circle tram, a free service which carries 3 million passengers a year, half of the tourists.
Well, it has a unique feature that it has an automatic onboard announcement system which advises the passengers of the various attractions around Melbourne. It's a very sophisticated system in the sense that it uses transponders buried underground and scanners that pick up a digitised code and relay it through a computer system in the trams. So although the trams are old, the technology is quite modern.
While the public transport lobby welcomes such initiatives, it believes more should be done to get people out of cars. Paul Mead cites Canadian experience as a model for Australian cities.
By way of coincidence, in the same week this came out, Vancouver finalised its regional transport and land use strategy, and it's the exact opposite of this. There are literally no proposed for major new roads at all. The proposal is that all the increase in travel in the future is to be accommodated on public transport, walking and cycling. That doesn't mean people are going to stop using their cars, but it means that we're going to try and push much more travel than is currently the case onto the forms of transport that are good for the environment.
According to Ken Ogden, Melbourne's blueprint puts a high priority on public transport.
If you look at what it offers beyond roads, and in fact the road system is merely one part of it, what it offers in terms of public transport is a prospect of public transport within the inner suburbs, and for public transport in the city as being what is termed the mode of choice. Now that is a really major statement.
But in this era of cost cutting, governments are unlikely to write an open cheque for public transport expansion. More and more, the private sector is picking up the tab. Victoria already has 2 privately run regional train services, and there's a plan to call tenders for a rail link to Melbourne Airport. The airport itself will be privatised next year, and as for shipping, the Port of Geelong and Portland are already in private hands.
Now, if you can cut the cost of a service in half, simply by having private enterprise take over the role, but you control the service as government, you specify a maximum fare level, a minimum number of services they can provide through the day and the night. You're still controlling the service, but you've reduced cost. Now, that's how we see more involvement in private enterprise. Clearly, that is the way ahead, a better service for less cost.
Of course, not everything will be privatised. The improvements on the upfield train line come out of public coffers. But John Tanevsky and thousands of others like him across Australia will still face the same question. Will they still have a job in the brave new world of public transport?
John Mashanauskas with that